I'm Kim Southern.
And I'm Bernita Roby.
And we're here from the Chicago Women's AIDS Project. We're a nonprofit organization that works with HIV-positive women. And today we're going to be talking about female condoms. So this is what a female condom looks like. We were just talking about how the packaging has looked the same for a lot of years, but the condom has changed recently in the last couple of years. If you looked very closely on it, it does say FC2 to show that it is the new kind of condom. And it puts the power into your hands. A lot of times I think women feel like they don't have control over whether they're having safer sex or using protection. And this puts that power back in the women's hands.
The really cool thing about the female condom is that it is made out of nitrile, which is a synthetic form of latex. So if you have a latex allergy, this is the perfect condom for you.
The female condom comes in a package like this. Anytime you use a condom, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it hasn't expired. The female condom does have an expiration date, which is kind of held on the side here. This one doesn't expire until March 2013, so we've got some good months left on that. And then what you'd want to do is you'd want to open it up and take it out. And this is what the female condom looks like.
So we carefully opened it so that we're sure not to rip the condom. Even with the male condom, you have to make sure that you look for the right preparation points and then pull it ever so gently to pull it out safely.
When you take it out, it's always good to take a look at it, see what it looks like. A lot of times people haven't seen a female condom before. I always tell people when they're thinking about trying one for the first time to open it when they're not going to have sex. Take a look at it, try putting it in when the pressure's off and you don't feel any stress about getting it in quickly. So the first thing you might notice is that there's this outer ring and this inner ring. And the way that it works is the outer ring will go on the outside and the inner ring will go on the inside. We'll show you what that means in a second. But this outer ring can give a lot of pleasure. So this inner ring is inside of here, and you'd want to twist it like this.
So you kind of make it like a figure eight. So for those of us that have small fingers like myself, it's easy for me to pinch it, and it sort of goes into a figure eight by itself when you squeeze it together, or you can just squeeze it and just make a small loop. Okay, that's going to help insertion go a lot easier.
And what you're doing is you're making it narrower so that you can fit it in. So we do have a vagina model here. And so this is the vagina model that we'll do. And Bernita's going to take it from there, talking about how to get it in.
Great. So once I've made my figure eight, it's sort of like putting in a tampon. So if those of us that have used like an OB tampon that doesn't have a regular applicator, what you're going to do is you're going to squeeze it together, make your figure eight, and then you're going to insert it just like this. So that way it's sort of like pushing in, like I said, just like a tampon. Once it goes in, it's going to feel just as comfortable as if you did insert it. It's going to sort of click into place. It then latches onto the bottom of your cervix, sort of like on your pelvic bone. That way it's nice and secure. So Kim did talk about the inner ring and the outer ring. The inner ring is what's going to hold it inside of your body. Okay, so just when you're putting in a tampon, just as you feel comfortable, if you wiggle around a little bit, hey, it's uncomfortable, you know it's not in right. So if you don't feel it, you did a good job. Okay, so now we have the inner ring that's holding it in, and we talked about the outer ring. She did mention that it gives you pleasure, but it also gives you added protection. The outer ring covers your labia majora and minora and your clitoris. That way, you have protection against skin-to-skin contact infections or diseases, like herpes and things like that.
Genital warts. So basically what Bernita is saying is that the female condom can provide a little more protection than a male condom can because it covers this outside area. And that means you'll see it out there when you're using it. But the other thing that Bernita mentioned was the pleasure aspect. So what's right here is the woman's clitoris, which is a place where there's a lot of pleasure, the most pleasure for the woman. And this outer ring can rub right up against that and increase the pleasure, which is what sex is about.
It's really awesome.
And that can be one of the selling points when you're talking to other people about it, talking to your partner about it, is that this could be a lot more pleasurable. So again, just to review, when you put it in, you put the inner ring all the way in, and as Bernita said, it's going to kind of click right behind that bone there, which kind of holds it in place. A vagina is only 4 to 6 inches long, so sometimes people, might have a fear that it could go too far back. That's not possible. Your vagina is not never ending. There's a backpack back there. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to see this in real life, but in this model, there is an opening so you can see that there's a cervix, which is the back of your vagina and the bottom of your uterus. And that is kind of like a round knob that this ring will lock around and hold it comfortably in place there.
Right. And so just like the head of the penis is the most sensitive part of the male's body, the clitoris is the most sensitive part of the female's body. So with this rubbing up against that, that's what we're talking about, that added pleasure. I think that's like 6 to 8,000 nerve endings, I think, in the clit. So that's
which is more than in the entire penis.
Yes.
And it's all concentrated in the female. When whatever's being inserted is inserted, you want to make sure it goes in here in the condom, and not to the side.
Right.
If you can use this for vaginal or anal sex, and we'll talk about anal sex in a second. For vaginal sex, you can insert it 2 to 4 hours in advance. So that means if you're going somewhere and you know you're going to have sex, going out to the club, going over to someone's house, you think you're going to have sex, you could put it in advance, so you don't even have to deal with it in the heat of the moment, and you could just say, look, it's already in, let's go, I'm ready.
Yeah. And especially if you're in a situation where you're with a partner or someone that says, you know what, I don't have a condom on me, we don't have to use one. Well, actually, I do. I'm prepared because I've inserted it now 2 to 4 hours ahead of time, so you're ready to go.
And talking about partners, a lot of times this condom can be more pleasurable for male partners if that's who you're having sex with, for a variety of reasons. One is some men complain that condoms don't feel as good, they're too tight. This is not tight on the penis. This material is called nitrile, as Bernita said, and it heats up with the temperature of your body, and then it sticks to the walls of the vagina or the anus. And so it feels less like wearing a condom for both people. Also, that inner ring that we talked about that's on the inside, a lot of men find a lot of pleasure when that rubs up against the head of their penis, and also can provide internal pleasure to females inside the vagina as well.
Exactly.
And so then when you're done, you want to make sure that, unlike a male condom where it has to be removed right after ejaculation, female condom, it doesn't have to be removed right after ejaculation, but when you are done, you do want to twist it like this so nothing falls out, and pull it out and throw it away. For anal sex, unlike vaginal sex, you cannot insert it in advance, so you want to insert it just before you use it. The same thing when you are ready to be done, you twist it and pull it out. That's one option. I've talked to some people who said they aren't as comfortable with how the ring feels inside their anus, and luckily for anal sex, that's optional. So you can pull out this inner ring like this, and then you could choose to insert it into the anus like that, or you could have the person who is the top or the insertive partner put this onto their penis or whatever is being inserted. It's going to be loose, and then they could insert it into the anus like that. You should never use 2 condoms at once, whether a female or a male. It's one or the other. So if you're using a female condom, you can't also have your partner use a male condom, because the friction could rub together and cause them to break, which defeats the purpose.
Right. Women that have gone through menopause or have had a hysterectomy, this is a really, really great thing to have, because once you've had these things happen, you don't necessarily produce the natural juices or secretions that you had before. So this gives you a new, I guess, lease on your sex life.
Yeah.
So with this, it now makes kind of a new vagina, right? So it's really lubey. So then it helps out with that. So you're really comfortable in having sex again.
A lot of times people struggle with partner communication, especially when it comes to sexual health. And so talking about it can be a challenge. So we always tell people to kind of focus on the positives of it. There's a lot of ways that it's very pleasurable, and we remind people that that's what sex is about. A lot of times we get caught up in talking about the health parts of it and forget why people are having sex, and that this condom can increase pleasure, which is a really great, definitely a great thing.
And make the conversation negotiation fun for you and your partner. Play hide and seek, with body parts, or just have, fun little conversations about it. Like, oh my gosh, the outer ring, hey, I'll give you pleasure if you give me pleasure. Or, hey, it heats up, let's have some fun with that. And also, you can take this ring out and use it as a toy as well. So it's good as far as negotiation, and also just heating up the bedroom too. So we highly recommend something
and
like
using
that.
it as a point to say, hey, I was thinking to try this because it could make our sex life more exciting, more fun, more pleasurable. Focusing on those positives rather than focusing on the fears of contracting an STI or becoming pregnant if that's not what you're trying to do. Focus on the positives. I always tell people that anytime you try something the first time, it's going to feel different at first. For people who've maybe worn contacts before, when you put them in, at first you're like, oh my gosh, I feel this in my eye. And then after an hour, you barely notice it there at all.
Exactly.
So I ask people to always give the female condom 3 tries. The first time, try it by yourself when you're not going to have sex. Try putting it in, see how it feels, get it in right. The second time, try it with your partner, and by the third time, you won't even notice it's there.